Looks like we're recording now. Awesome. So we wanted to provide everybody an update today after some recent announcements by Governor Mills. So I have some prepared remarks, and then a lot like the other Facebook Lives that we've had, we will be updating everybody on various things, and we have some of our key city staff that are here to support us to answer any questions, and we will be taking any questions that anyone has via Zoom and Facebook Live. So we're excited to join you today to just provide you an update on some of the things that we're facing given this current crisis that we're in. We hope everyone is healthy and well. As we go into our third week of this state of emergency, some may be experiencing frustration and impatience in complying with the various rules and recommendations. We encourage everyone to hang in there as best they can. Weather soon will improve and we can enjoy the outdoors more. Westbrook residents have been doing a great job complying with all current and previous rules and recommendations. We have had some reports of individuals accessing closed facilities and kids gathering in different places. While we fully understand the desire to remain active, it is critically important that we do so according to the current rules and recommendations. Yesterday, Governor Mills provided some new orders and recommendations that our staff is meeting regularly to discuss the city's plans and handling issues that arise due to the coronavirus. As we know now, there are currently over 300 confirmed cases and 5 deaths in Maine, with most of the cases from Cumberland County. We now have 11 cases of city residents being appropriately treated, and unfortunately, 1 recent death. Our thoughts and prayers are with those families who are being treated and those who have lost loved ones. We also have 3 city employees that are confirmed cases, and we have taken appropriate actions within each department to quarantine exposed employees and disinfect the facilities. We remain in close communication with federal, state, and regional officials on developments related to this situation and would like to provide additional updates on the city's response to protect the public health and safety for this current state of emergency. Ensuring the safety of our employees and general public while also continuing to provide the critical services necessary to run the city is of paramount importance to us. In order to minimize the rise of exposure to employees, volunteers, and the general public, I have done the following. Previously declared a state of emergency, which remains in effect until further notice. All actions are reported to the City Council on a weekly basis, and previous actions can be reviewed on the city's website, westbrookmaine.com, and if you click the coronavirus page at the top. I've recently enacted the Public Services Department COVID-19 Emergency Funeral Protocol. Through a major donation, we will be launching the Westbrook Warren Memorial Foundation Emergency Arts Fund. This grant program is under development and more details will be released soon. We've enacted schedule changes for all city staff, including potential schedule changes for our public safety personnel to better protect those employees. Also, we will follow Governor Mills' executive order as of March 31st, mandating a series of new restrictions effective April 2nd, including Stay Healthy at Home directive that requires people living in Maine to stay at home at all times, unless for an essential job or an essential personal reason, such as obtaining food, medicine, healthcare, or other necessary purposes. Bear with me a moment here. Also, for essential businesses and operations that remain open, limiting the number of customers in their buildings at any one time, implementing curbside pickup and delivery options as much as possible, and enforcing US CDC recommended physical distancing requirements for their customers and employees in and around their facilities. Prohibiting the use of public transportation unless for an essential reason or job that cannot be done from home, and limiting the number of people traveling in private vehicles to persons within the immediate household unless transporting for essential activities. Also mandating the continued termination of classroom or in-person instruction until at least May 1st. Also mandating that when out of the home or when at work at an essential business, individuals shall maintain a minimum distance of 6 feet from other persons. We previously launched Westbrook's takeout and delivery support effort and contest to support our local businesses, with details available on our website and social media. We gave away our first $100 gift certificate Monday, and congratulations to Jacqueline Hazelwood, our first winner. We thank her and the other submissions for supporting local businesses. Get your entries in. We encourage businesses also to better protect both customers and employees. And Superintendent Dr. Lancia has many announcements for the Westbrook School Department, and details are on their website regarding their response. Police, fire, and rescue and public services continue to remain fully operational, and we thank those dedicated employees who continue to serve during this crisis. Given these closures, we strongly encourage the use of telephone, email, and online services wherever possible for conducting business within the city. We continue to rely upon the governor, Maine CDC, and our coronavirus task force for guidance as we continue monitoring this public health situation. We modify all directives as appropriate, and under the continued advisement, we should minimize our public contact in order to reduce the spread of this highly contagious virus. Please continue to practice the recommended physical distancing to protect us all. Remember, these preventative actions are being taken out of an abundance of caution and concern for everyone, and not panic. We apologize for any inconveniences you may experience as a result of these measures. We continue to recognize that the spread of this virus is fluid and rapidly evolving situation that requires monitoring and the need to adapt quickly. We continue to monitor and respond accordingly, as well as provide additional updates to everyone should recommendations change. We encourage everyone to check in with their neighbors, especially our seniors, and help each other out if and when possible. Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with all affected by this crisis. Looking ahead, it seems likely that things will get worse before they get better. Let's remain strong right now to flatten the curve, keep each other and ourselves healthy, and protect our first responders and healthcare providers. Our community is strong, and we will come out stronger. As Governor Mills said yesterday, do your part and stay apart. For more information on the city's response and the status of the pandemic, please visit westbrookmaine.com/639/coronavirus with links to the CDC and the Westbrook School Department. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe. We will kind of recap some of the announcements that we have made and how they affect Westbrook. But before we do that, our health officer, Fire Chief Andrew Turcott, is extremely busy working on a regular basis with CDC, municipal employees, as well as businesses in the community to help combat this virus and how it's affected those different organizations. So I'm going to turn it over to him for him to just provide us a quick health officer update, and he'll be available for any questions as well as we go through the event today. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor Foley. I just want to provide a quick update regarding stats. Globally, we have 895,887 confirmed cases and just under 50,000 deaths. In the United States, we have just under 200,000 confirmed cases and a little over 4,000 deaths. And as the mayor alluded to, 303 confirmed cases and currently 6 deaths in our state. That is an increase of 28 confirmed cases over the previous day. And later on today, we'll have additional information on the increase in the rate of confirmed cases. I do want to note that this is certainly underreported because, as we all know, with limited testing, that the cases are much higher. And we all have to realize that, it could be that our neighbor, our friend could be infected. So following the CDC guidelines are vitally important. In addition, everyone across the country, and in fact, across the world, are waking up to new restrictions, as Mayor Foley just alluded to, many of which are very inconvenient to what we are all accustomed to living in a free democratic society. Parents now have the added stress of caring for children while also working from home, while others are faced with the impossible solution of needing to physically go to work with no or limited childcare options. We are also coming to grips with that we are truly facing one of the world's worst health crises in over a century, finding the vulnerabilities in our public health system and realizing that not only is it likely that we know someone that we love dearly will get the virus, but that we might also have to become a caregiver for someone that we love. These are certainly trying times, and one thing is certain, our daily lives have changed, and that this is the new norm, one that will take time to adjust to. But people also do not want to be cooped up inside all day, especially when the weather is warm. Individuals want to be outdoors, using those open spaces, utilizing our parks and trails to keep healthy, both physically and mentally, and to provide activities for our children, who now suddenly have no school or extracurricular activities, and who are also unable to spend time with their friends. And while we want to encourage these activities, we also must be mindful that the coronavirus is a dangerous and a deadly virus, spreading rapidly, and individuals also need to do everything that they can to help flatten the curve, as the mayor alluded to. That is, to attempt to reduce the amount of transmission of the virus. One of the most proven ways to accomplish this, as we're talking about time and time again, is to keep that minimum distance of 6 or more feet. Pick trail networks that provide for social distancing and practice it, and know what it looks like. Know what that 6-foot space is. Keep it as you walk, run, bike, or hike. Also, warn other trail users of your presence. And as you pass, allow them proper distance. Step off the trails. Allow them to pass. Keeping that minimum recommended distance at all times. Signal your presence with your voice. Use your bell if you have it, or if you have a horn, honk that horn. Also, bring water or other fluids to hydrate, as public restrooms or fountains may be closed or disabled at this time. And finally, the only way that we will beat this is to follow the most stringent measures imposed. And while it creates an inconvenience, the sooner that we all follow them, the sooner that we will be able to flatten the curve and thus get back to the old normal as much as it possibly can be. And as always, my office is available. Steve Sloan, who is our infection control officer, is also available. And again, we will get through this. So thank you very much, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. We will definitely let you know if we have any questions specifically about the health officer related items. But before we do that, I want to quickly unpack a couple of things, and then we'll turn it over to Dr. Lancia to go through some school related items and updates. So one of the recent announcements we did was we enacted a Public Services Department COVID emergency funeral protocol. Given the winter and spring coming, our funeral homes have begun to become overloaded with bodies that are ready for burial. And so we'll be working to try to implement a policy to get those burials to take place in the city of Westbrook at our municipal cemeteries. And so we thank everybody for their patience with that. And if you have any questions about those rules, most of them apply to funeral directors, but our public services department and our operations manager, Artie Ledoux, can provide you any more detailed updates that you may need surrounding those updated rules. And we thank everybody for their work on those so we can proceed. Also, we will be launching the Westbrook Memorial Foundation Emergency Arts Fund. This is an amazing grant program, and at a later time, after Dr. Lancia speaks, I'll turn it over to Daniel Stevenson to unpack that. It is a very generous donation from the War Memorial Foundation. We thank them for their continued support in the community, especially during this difficult time. And then also we enacted schedule changes for all city staff. Many of what our city does is an essential service. And so at this point, our city hall staff is down to a complete skeleton crew trying to maintain what we need necessary to keep the city running. And then our public safety personnel, who are the most active of the municipal employees during this time, are still out and about and serving the community. And we will potentially be making adjustments to their schedules in the near future to better protect them and to better manage our workforce. We've talked about early on about potentially reducing the number of shifts for the fire department, so we have more folks on a shift and spread those folks out in the community at different locations that we can, to keep them separated and to keep them from exposing others if for some reason an employee becomes exposed. And then also with our police department, we may be exploring some longer shifts or alternating shifts. So it gives people essentially more time to be home with their families and recover, while also serving the community in the appropriate way to best protect the public health and safety of everyone. So we thank our first responders for working with us. We are working with the labor unions on that. We thank everyone for their understanding as we work through that. I've seen a couple of questions pop in. Specifically, there's more details about that. There was a good article in today's paper, Portland Press Herald, with frequently asked questions. And then her executive order does have a lot of information. But one of the questions was, is there a curfew time? Currently at this point, there was no curfew time established by Governor Mills' order, and we don't have one here in the city of Westbrook. As explained many other times, our city doesn't, we have great staff with our health officer, Andrew Turcott, but we don't have like an epidemiologist on staff, and we don't have the staff that Governor Mills has. And given the fact that we're not a major metropolitan area, we here in the city of Westbrook have been relying on the guidance of Governor Mills and the director of the CDC, Dr. Shah. And we really feel like they have the best hands-on understanding of what's going on in our communities. I know some other communities have enacted different orders and different things, but we're truly relying upon them, given that we don't have the staff and the expertise to be making those extensive decisions that really affect the state as a whole. This isn't necessarily a community-to-community issue. This is a statewide issue, it's a national issue, and we really need to rely on those leaders to help guide us in those specific situations. So as part of the stay-at-home order, I don't think it's a lot different from what people were already doing. Like I said, in Westbrook, people have been doing a great job. The city is a ghost town. Our downtown is a ghost town. Our employers are a ghost town. Everybody is doing their best to stay away and to do the guidelines that have been recommended by Governor Mills in the past. And so most of the people on the roads are either going to essential jobs or going to essential services such as food and grocery and things of that nature. So it's not a huge change for a lot of people. There is some specific guidance around the businesses that are open and that are essential about how many people can and cannot be in the stores. This is guidance that we've been recommending all along, that if you go to a convenience store or you go somewhere, don't just join in this huge crowd that's in the store. Form a line outside, do appropriate social distancing, all things that will help us as residents do the appropriate things. So this does continue to allow our takeout and delivery businesses to remain open. So through our takeout and delivery program, we encourage everyone to continue to support those local businesses with food. They need our support to continue going, and we can do our part by helping them. As part of that, we do have a raffle program, and Dan can talk a little bit more about that for those who weren't aware of it, but we did have our first drawing earlier this week, as I outlined. So we thank everybody for their patience and their understanding. This definitely is, as I said early on, a frustrating time for folks, but we're strong, do what we can to support each other, and remain social with people using tools like this Zoom and Facebook and phone calls. It's definitely important. Check in on your elderly friends and neighbors. They definitely appreciate it. And we've been doing that as well here in the city of Westbrook. We've been checking in on folks that participate in all our senior activities at the community center and folks who have applied for our senior property tax program, and we'll be checking in with them on an ongoing basis. So given that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lancia to provide us an update of things that are going on at the schools. Dr. Lancia.
Thank you, Mayor Foley. Good morning, everyone. Just a quick story that this morning someone played an April Fool's Day prank on me, and I had a good laugh about that. But I couldn't help think, boy, I wish this was all an April Fool's joke, what we're going through. But it's certainly not. This is what's becoming a regular phrase now, the new normal, and it's a really challenging time for everybody. But coming together like this through these kind of meetings, this kind of information, I think is one way that we continue to build the social relationships and the communication, but also share information. So thank you for setting this up, and I'll give you some quick information about what's happening with the schools. Um, as the governor announced yesterday, we are going to have to continue with distance learning at least through the end of April. I'll be sending a communication out to the district families later on today, confirming that, and with any other updates as to any potential further closure. No decisions have been made beyond what has already been announced, but we will be announcing something later on today through our robocall and through the automated email systems and on our website as well. I just want to shout out to all of our students. We have the most amazing kids who are resilient and energized and engaged and really focused on distance learning. They've become online learners pretty quickly, and they're participating, they're eager, they're engaging with their teachers, with each other, through social media, through online resources. They're engaging with their families. I just want to thank them. They've done a great job in all grade levels, from our kindergartners through our high school students. They've all done a fantastic job with that. And thanks also to the parents. I know how hard it is to play multiple roles. You're probably working at home as well. Your students are learning at home. It's hard to navigate everything. We don't expect you to navigate everything. We don't expect you to be their teachers. We don't expect you to do anything but be moms or dads or caregivers in the home. We want you to be families first. So if something seems challenging, or if something seems like it's beyond the norm, it probably is. So please reach out to your children's teachers, to their principals, to me, and we'll work through this together. This is a challenging time for everybody, but I just want to commend everybody for their hard work, and especially the kids. You seem to be not missing a beat, which is awesome. I know you're missing school, you're missing your friends, you're missing your teachers. We're missing you as well, but we want to make sure that everyone stays safe. Some folks have asked what some of those requirements are for distance learning, or some of the expectations we have. On Monday evening, the school committee approved our district learning plan, which is now posted on our website. It gives you a broad overview of what we expect for distance learning, the requirements, the perceptions, the just kind of how it works in general terms. So if you'd like to read that, just to kind of get a broad picture of what all of our programs look like in distance learning, from preschool through adult education, all of our special ed programs, ESL programs, the whole variety of programs on the academic side of the school department, as well as the operations side. Please visit our website, www.westbrookschools.org, and you can click on the distance learning, or excuse me, the continuity of learning plan, and you can read through that. So you can get a sense of how we're approaching this from the global perspective as an entire district. We are planning to continue serving meals throughout the closure. Meal service is an essential service, so we will continue to distribute meals curbside at WRVC every weekday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's going on right now. We will also continue to deliver food to families who've ordered meals. Those deliveries typically happen between 11 a.m. and about 2 p.m., depending on the length of the routes or the number of meals that have to be delivered. Some days it takes a little bit extra time. But if families have ordered a meal, please be watching for our drivers when they come to your building or to your house. They've been instructed not to have personal contact, which is really hard for everybody, but we want to ensure everybody's safety. So when you see them pulling up, know that they're leaving food for you, for your children, on your doorstep, on your doorknob, in a bin. If you have a bin you can put outside, that's really great if you can do that for us. But they're not allowed to have contact with you. So if you could kind of be watching for them, they're probably coming around the same times every day. It's the same routes we follow every day. That would be great. That way you know when food has arrived and you can eat the food right away. Today, we're starting something new as well. We're distributing books at WRVC during the lunch program. We have had a lot of donations over the course of the year from a bunch of partners within the school, our staff at the school, as well as our friends with Kiwanis, our friends with the Book Fairy, which is a project providing literature for younger children. So we are giving out lots of books every Wednesday, starting today. So again, as we speak, if you come for a meal, you'll be asked if you'd like a bag of books, and we'll give those to you, and they are yours to keep. We don't expect those to be returned. In fact, we ask them not to be returned. We want you to keep them, and then you can certainly pass them on. They are both new and gently used books. We've sorted them into age groups or age appropriate or grade level appropriate groups. So your bag of book isn't pure choice, but it at least is kind of around the age levels of your children. So if you have a 7-year-old, you can ask for a bag of books that would be appropriate for a 2nd or 3rd grader. And if they're not appropriate, then you can certainly share them in your neighborhood with your friends as well. But that's a service we'd like to provide as well, because with our libraries closed, with our schools closed, we know that reading is one of the most essential things that we can learn how to do as humans. We want to make sure that we have enough material for you to read. So we'll be doing that every Wednesday at the WRVC site during the regular lunch distribution hours. If you don't want the meal, you just want to come for books, just pull up curbside, ask for a bag of books, and our staff will give those out to you. One other development that we're working on, because our distance learning program is now extending to longer than we had originally intended, we're working to make sure that all of our elementary students have access to at least one device, one electronic device in their home, typically an iPad. We'll be distributing iPads to families who've identified that they don't have devices for their children, starting at the end of this week. We're also working with some community partners to identify some hotspots within the city so that we can work on providing more access to the internet, so that our students can benefit from that. People are certainly welcome to park in front of one of our schools and use our open server at any time. Obviously practicing social distancing when you do so, but we want to make sure that folks are as connected as they can be. So we'll begin that process this week as well. I think those are the major updates. If you have any questions whatsoever, the best way to reach me right now is really by email. My office phone is being routed to my other devices, but sometimes there's a glitch in Cyberland. So if you'd like to reach me, email is the best. In fact, the best way to reach any of our staff right now is by email. Phone calls are being routed to one of our central office staff who's working remotely. But feel free to reach out to anyone in the school department at any time. Email again is the best option.
Thank you, Dr. Lancia. It truly has been an amazing response that the school department has put together. I've heard from many constituents that we were way ahead of other school departments in our distance learning, and we really appreciate that for our community. You and your team of administrators have done a great job, and we're grateful for that. Given the recent extension of closure till May 1st, I know you'll keep us updated on different things, and appreciate the school committee getting together to get that learning plan approved, and they're going to start having some meetings via this Zoom technology, as we did with the city council as well. And they'll be having I think they'll be having a meeting next week, Dr. Lancia, and then the city council will also be having a meeting next week. So we'll get more information out on those. I did have a few school-related questions that, while we're on with Dr. Lancia, we'll talk about those because I know he may have to run as well. So the first one is, do children who are in special education get extra time on their homework as if they were in school, which they might have been put into place with their IEP?
Mm-hmm. all of the accommodations that are part of IEPs would continue with distance learning. So just reach out to your child's teacher, their case manager as well, to make sure that extended time. Much of the work we're doing is what we call asynchronous. So it's not live work or right in the moment work. So extended time is certainly an option just for everybody right now in terms of getting that work accomplished. But please reach out to your kids' teachers with any questions about that to make sure that everyone is clear about any requirements under the IEP.
Awesome. The next question was, what about kids that are struggling in the non-structured environment with parents who have college and work? What is happening if kids can't get all their work done on time?
So again, reach out to your child's teachers, to your principal, and just talk about that. I think we're all being very flexible. Everybody has to be right now. And if there's too much work that's being assigned, or if there's extenuating circumstances with families who are trying to balance work and school and children and taking care of relatives and a whole variety of things, let's just talk about that. We can certainly work things out and make accommodations. We've been working with our staff to really look at what we call reasonable guidelines and what's reasonably expected for distance learning. It's not like we're sitting in school for 6.5 hours a day. So we don't expect our kids to be online or doing schoolwork for that amount of time. And certainly not necessarily doing it during a set schedule. So please just reach out to the teacher, reach out to your principal, and we can address those concerns as they come up.
Thank you, Dr. Lancia. Definitely important things to just communicate and keep everybody up to date. We did have a couple of comments on Facebook about a teacher that's doing a great job, and the parades that you're doing, and the food that you're serving. It's all great stuff. The parades have been well received by most. I've seen a few things on social media where folks have been disturbed, but I think in this time we've got to do as much as we can to excite people and give people a change of pace. And those parades are different, and it's something that we're new to, and we appreciate teachers organizing that and trying to just, and I think it's the students have been participating, telling teachers with signs that they miss them and vice versa. And so it's definitely an interesting time. So anything we can do to try to create some positivity, it's definitely important to do. And we appreciate what everyone's been doing in that area.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Dr. Lancia. If we have any school-related questions before you have to go, I will let folks know. And if you have to go, we are not offended. So there was a couple other questions. Someone said, did we mention the correction to the order allowing non-essentials to work on a limited basis for curbside and delivery? I think it must be a restaurant owner. I think that's been quite clear in the order that food-related businesses are essential, and using delivery and takeout as much as possible. So I think there's still some flexibility and gray area in there. And then also someone said, again, asked if there's be a curfew. So there is no curfew. It's really, if you don't have an essential job or going to get an essential service, the order or the mandate from Governor Mills is to stay at home if you can, or you're not exercising or things of that nature. So if you have an essential job or something like that, it's definitely okay to be out and about. So with that, I will turn it over to Dan Stevenson. As we talked about, we instituted the takeout and delivery contest, support effort contest, and we've supported our local businesses by purchasing gift certificates that we're giving out to folks who submit to us $100 worth of receipts. And we made our first drawing on Monday. I'll have Dan expand a little bit more about that. Also, the Warren Memorial Foundation donation for arts-related businesses. Dan will give us some more information about that. That's going to be a donation to the city that the city council will be accepting at our meeting on Monday, and launching that program shortly thereafter for businesses to apply for. And then also, if you have any other updates regarding business support efforts with the SBA or anything like that, we'd be happy to hear it. Dan, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Mayor Foley. The first point I'd like to make is all the efforts that we're doing it certainly goes noticed that COVID-19 has a negative effect on all business sectors and workers. We understand that. We are doing our part to support as best we can throughout this. So with that, I have 4 things I'd like to talk about today. The first thing I'll talk about is the Westbrook takeout and delivery support effort that you had just noted. I strongly encourage people to save their receipts. It's from any eatery that's open within the city of Westbrook. It's super easy to go online and put in some basic information so we can reach out to you if you're a winner. You take literally a photo, a picture of your receipts when you hit $100 worth. It's very easy to hit that mark and upload them. And we're doing weekly drawings. Actually, Mr. Mayor, you're doing the weekly drawing, and we certainly appreciate it. You have made a very important point. With just only 100 people doing this, that pushes $10,000 into our local economy and a local eatery. So I strongly encourage people to do this. Let's hit that mark and more. A couple of questions have come in. Can you enter more than once? The answer is yes. If you provide $500 worth of receipts, your name will be entered 5 times. Do you have to do it weekly? And the answer is no, meaning if you had $20 worth of receipts this week and $80 worth of receipts next week, that's fine. When you hit 100, then you're entered. And you remain entered each week unless you're drawn. So the point is, if you entered last week and you didn't win, you're going to be in for the next 13 weeks. So it's really good. Let's continue that effort. It really supports our local eateries. Thank you. The second point I'd like to make, and I'm very excited about, I want to thank Karen Michelle for not only the idea, but also thank the Warren Memorial Foundation for their generous gift to the city for the Westbrook Warren Memorial Foundation Emergency Arts Fund. Thank you very much. It's important to have these kinds of partnerships and continue them. Essentially, what's happening under the Emergency Arts Fund is the city will administer the $50,000, and anyone in any artists, whether they're working actors, performing artists, visual artists, musicians, filmmakers, writers, dancers, etc., or own studios in Westbrook, they will qualify for $1,500 grants to support them if they've been affected. We will not post the application online until the council has voted on that, which will be in this week's council packet. But we want to move this through quickly. We're very excited to support the artist community with this. And as soon as the council takes action on that, we would then post online and put stuff out on Facebook so the artists can start uploading their applications. The third thing I'd like to talk about is where people are getting information. My inbox gets flooded now with all kinds of people sending stuff which may or may not be legitimate. Unfortunately, during crisis, there are predators out there. So be really careful about people selling you stuff you don't need, going to sites, clickbait. Most people are familiar with that term. I cannot state enough how go to trusted sources, whether it's maine.gov, whether it's the Westbrook sites that the mayor has suggested, whether it's SBA or Maine's Department of Labor, go to those sources to get accurate information about what's up there, because it does change daily. With respect to the stimulus bill that is now law, that's an 800-page document. We want to be really careful about summaries and what we get out there. I think it's important that we follow the appropriate websites as the summaries come out, where the money's coming from, and we'll continue to post those on our site, which is the third thing I wanted to talk about. Our IT department has also created now a page on our website, which is similar as the COVID page, with a business resource site, and we'll continue to update the links there. So if you have any questions about how this is affecting you, and you want to know what's out there for grants, loans, unemployment, you can click on the links to the sites and follow the instructions there as well. You can always reach out to me, D. Stevenson, at westbrook.me.us if you need some support at going to any of those places and spaces. Um, and then finally, I'd like to also talk about the Maine Arts Commission. Also, just announced that they are they have posted a Maine's Artist Relief Fund, which individuals can also apply up to $500 for grants as well. In order to access those dollars, you go to artsengage@me.org. Artsengage@me.org. We'll also post that on our COVID page as well. One other thing I see, Representative Gattin is on, and he'll talk. I noticed that Senator Heather Sanborn is providing a regular updates as well. They're very helpful and useful. That's all I have for today, Mayor.
Thank you, Dan, for that update of the information that you have. Couple comments that came in during that time. Just one of them was they said they weren't a restaurant. A person that asked us earlier about essential online or curbside. I think Drew Gattin, Representative Gattin can maybe speak to this, but I would contact the State Department of Economic and Community Development or inquire with their website. They do have a list of essential businesses and non-essential businesses. And if you feel like you're an essential business and you can provide your services in an appropriate manner, then you can apply for an exemption. I know Representative Gattin told me the first day that came out, they received hundreds and hundreds of applications for exemptions to the essential businesses law. So definitely check that out. We don't have the specific answer to that at the moment, and we can try to find that if you need in the future. Just contact us, contact Dan, and we can definitely try to find that. We like I said, we're doing our best to support businesses and the community as much as possible under the circumstances. We're not the federal and state government, so we don't have billions of dollars to give away to businesses to help them. So we really need to rely upon those. And where we can help is how we can help people navigate and deal with some of those challenges. And so we have the expertise, and that's something that Dan can help us with and help navigating challenges. So definitely keep that in mind. Another question that came in regarding the takeout, delivery, and support effort. We have communicated to businesses, a lot of the businesses that are open, the information. Some of them have flyers and postings about the details, but just we want to remind business owners, if you're tuning in or if our staff encounter them, to just remind them to give receipts. Someone reported that some receipts haven't been provided, and so they didn't have the ability to make entry. If you have some of that information, just reach out to us, and we can try to see if we can verify some of that information and maybe get you an entry. But definitely try to get those receipts so you can submit those in to get an entry to win. We had 8 people on that raffle this week. I've got a little program that spins a wheel, and so it's live and everybody can see it. And so we hope to get that up to, like Dan said, if we can get that up to 100 entries, that's $10,000 we've infused in the local economy. If we can get more, that's even more. Definitely keep that in mind with those things. So I'll now turn it over. A lot has happened in the last week. I feel like it's almost been a year of decision making that we've made in a matter of days. Like I said in my letter, it's been only 3 weeks that we've been dealing with this. So over the time, the governor has issued a number of different executive orders surrounding different things. And one of the issues that people seem to have been concerned about is vehicle related things like licenses and registrations and things of that nature. So I'll ask Representative Gattin to speak to that for a moment. Thank him for joining us. He's a very active member of our community. It's always good to have a state resource. And then anything else from the state side of things Representative Gattin wants to touch on, we'd love to hear it. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Mayor Foley. Again, really appreciate the opportunity to participate in these calls. Also, of course, motivates me to take a shower and shave at least once every few days. So please keep inviting me. My wife will definitely appreciate it. Again, I think between you and Dan and Chief Turcotte and Superintendent Lancia, I think you've covered a lot of the really important things, the issues that I'm dealing with every day, representing Westbrook people in the main house, are really not any different than the issues that you folks have been dealing with. I think you covered Governor Mills's order very well in terms of its detail. I do think that it is good to have all of the local communities now sort of living under the same rules. I know that we do value home rule here in the state of Maine, but I think in times of emergency like this, I think it's really good to have everybody sort of having a common understanding as we try to live our lives and move from community to community. In some respects, from my perspective, I think the new executive order is at a high level very simple. The governor is just very much trying to encourage people to stay at home as much as possible. I think that is the most important thing you can do, whether you live in Portland or Westbrook or a more rural part of Cumberland County or a more rural part of Maine. The number one thing we're going to be able to do in order to flatten the curve is to make sure that people stay home. So, that is really what's trying to be encouraged here. I think when people get down and dive into the weeds, maybe they have some more specific questions, and I can certainly be a resource in terms of trying to get those questions answered. Again, as you alluded to, Mr. Mayor, I think that the state folks are being sort of overwhelmed with some specific requests, but I certainly have the ability to make sure that those questions coming out of people in Westbrook get escalated and elevated. So people should continue to send me questions, both from the city as a government entity and also from individual people. And again, the governor is issuing a number of executive orders regarding healthcare and vehicle registration and insurance. I'm trying to post a lot of that information if I think it's generally of interest to folks on my website. I know the city is also, that information is all obviously publicly available. One of the issues that I think you mentioned specifically, again, if your driver's license expires sometime during this period of emergency, the governor did issue an executive order last week that extends that period of time for 30 days until after the emergency has determined to be ended. So you don't need to worry about trying to rush around and try to get your driver's license renewed. She also has given the Secretary of State authority to make similar provisions with respect to vehicle registrations and other things that people would normally do as a matter of course, going about their lives. And now we just want to give people the opportunity to not have to worry about those things and stay home. But if people have specific questions, certainly reach out to me and I can try to get those questions answered. I'm hearing a lot of issues about the unemployment system in Maine. Obviously, if you saw the news last week, there has been a huge spike in people's desire to try to file claims. Obviously, this is an unfortunate consequence of this emergency. And in addition to that, we've had some changes at the state level designed to give people broader access to benefits. And now, as of last Friday, with the third stimulus package, we've also had changes at the federal level, which again, as they are implemented, are going to provide a huge benefit to people. For example, on the federal side, people are going to be eligible now for an additional $600 per week in benefits, and the benefit period is going to be increased by an additional 13 weeks. That's great news for people, but I think that it has sort of led to the systems that manage these benefits being overwhelmed. I'm hearing a lot of concerns about people not being able to get into the system, things being denied that seems like they should be allowed. And again, if you're having any of those kinds of problems, please get that information to me, and I will try my best to track down any concerns you have with the Department of Labor. Legislators have a weekly call with Commissioner Fortman. Again, I don't think she gives me any information that isn't publicly available, but it does give me a forum and an opportunity to ask any specific questions that people in Westbrook Ave. Similarly, we have a weekly legislator call with the CDC director, Dr. Shah. Again, I think he gives us a lot of the same information, obviously, that he gives publicly every day, but it does give us an opportunity to ask him questions directly if we have any. So please continue to feed me those questions. I will do my best to try to get answers. It's the first of the month. I'm beginning to hear some concerns about from renters and also from landlords about the impact this is going to have on the ability of people to pay their rent and make their payments, and also obviously from landlords who are worried about their income stream and what it's going to do with respect to their ability to pay their mortgages and pay their utilities. I think this is a very serious situation. In the federal stimulus package, there's a moratorium on evictions if you live in public housing. Also, because eviction courts are now closed in Maine, district courts at least through. Oh, of course, the dog's going to bark while I'm on this call. There is in effect, in some respects, a moratorium here in Maine because courts aren't open. But I do think that there's a lot of conversation going on about the best way to support renters and landlords going forward. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, bring those to me, and I'll try to track down answers. Spending a lot of time looking at the federal, like Dan said, and I'm sure Dan's spending a lot of time looking at this federal bill that passed. It does provide $150 billion to states, which is then supposed to be also used to help local communities, trying to figure out what kind of handcuffs that comes with in terms of distributing that money, making that money available. I know that there's some additional CDBG money. Again, I'm sure that Dan has been doing a lot of work also in trying to figure out how that money is going to get into the hands of local communities. I think that money is going to be very important. And then again, there's some direct stimulus, not just in terms of unemployment benefits, but also stimulus checks that are going to be available to folks in the next few weeks. That again are intended to just be a huge benefit to working and middle class people as we try to get through this crisis. So again, just I guess my common theme, which I've said a number of times on this call, and I said last week too, is please use me as a resource. I'm spending a lot of time tracking down questions. At this point, that's pretty much what I consider to be my primary purpose in life. And people should feel free to reach me. My personal email is my first initial last name, so it's dgatine@gmail.com. And please feel free to call me, or even better yet, sometimes text me at my cell phone, which is 207-409-3477. So that's pretty much what I'd like to cover today, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Representative Gatine, for making yourself so accessible to members of Westbrook. You've represented Westbrook for 8 years as a state representative and a city councilor for a number of years. So we appreciate your service, and thank you for continuing.
Can I say one more thing? I mean, I do know that there's a lot of conversation. I know the city's interested, and I know that people live here are interested. About what we're going to do about the next about the June election. Yeah, I don't think there's been a lot of there hasn't been a decision made about that. I do know that a lot of people have questions. It's being actively discussed and considered whether there's a desire to move the date of it, whether we're going to go to some sort of an expanded absentee ballot. A lot of important issues that need to be worked out there, and I'm certainly keeping my eye on that too, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Drew. I had the opportunity, and I appreciate your comments about this being a statewide issue and really should be addressed from a statewide perspective. I had the opportunity to have a meeting with Governor Mills via this same technology on Friday, where we talked about and advocated for her to at least, if not have a statewide stay-at-home order, to have a regional stay-at-home order, given the amount of cases in Cumberland and York counties being at the most populous area of the state. And so in addition to that issue, we did talk to her about the election. We are advocating that she potentially have the election be absentee only, to prevent the gathering of people at the polls, as well as to help us with election workers, given most of our election workers are at higher risk from a health perspective. And so we want to make sure and protect those folks as much as possible. We've also had discussions about the school budget validation referendum. The superintendents collectively, Dr. Lancy has informed me, are advocating that that be suspended for this year. And I think as part of the last work that the legislature did, that is something that she has the authority to do if she needs to under this state of emergency. So we appreciate all the work that everyone's doing. Again, if you have any questions, it looks like there's no more questions on the Q&A on Zoom or on Facebook. We had about 100 people joining us again today. It's great to have people, and we hope that people appreciate this information, that we're able to try to keep people informed. Like I said in other Facebook Lives, we don't have access to WCSH to broadcast our announcements on a regular basis like they do in Portland and at the state. So we're doing our best to try to keep everyone informed with our written communication as well as our verbal communication here on Facebook Live. If anyone has any questions or concerns about anything, feel free to reach out to any one of us today, that we'd be happy to help you and help you navigate the situation. As we said early on, the community is strong, and we're going to come out stronger of this. And so do your part, stay apart, and we look forward to when we can all gather together again as a community. Like I mentioned, the school committee will be meeting next week via Zoom on Wednesday, and the city council will have a regular meeting on Monday with limited agenda items that are critical in nature or have already been discussed in the public. So we appreciate everyone's flexibility and the opportunity to participate in that method. We hope you have a good rest of your day and continue to support your local businesses. I'm going to figure out where I'm going to get lunch from today. So we look forward to seeing people getting their food from local businesses. And we hope to see everybody soon. Hang in there. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.